After a 54-17 thumping in their first ever game against Incarnate Word, the Wildcats are off to New Mexico
to take on those eastern New Mexico Greyhounds. Leave the driving to us. It's the Chris Thomsen Show next. Welcome to Week 8 of the Chris Thomsen Show. Grant Boone along with senior broadcast major at ACU, Brandon Tripp, and the head football coach at Abilene Christian, Chris Thomsen. ACU now 7-0 on the season, ranked number 4 in the nation after a 54-17 victory in San Antonio last Saturday night against Incarnate Word. Coach, the first time you've played them, first chance to see that stadium, at least first chance to play a game at that stadium. The tailgate party beforehand. How about the entire scene down there on the Incarnate Word campus?
No, I thought the whole atmosphere was great. You know, we pulled up for pregame, and the ACU tailgaters were there, and Incarnate Word had a really good tailgate showing, and it was just it was a great weather night in a great city, and I thought it was an awesome night.
And a good chance for folks to see what Incarnate Word can bring to the conference in terms of even some of the extracurricular things.
Yeah, just the whole campus and just everything that they bring with that city. Really, the city of San Antonio just brings a lot to the LSC that we've never had.
Coach, you got a trip to Blackwater Draw coming up today, a place where strange things always happen, whether they're running 75 times a game like they did a few years ago, or this new spread offense they have where they throw it 100 times. What are some of the strange things you've seen at that stadium?
Well, it's obviously a little bit different place in San Antonio out there in Blackwater Draw, but we've played we've had some shootouts with those guys back when they were running the triple option that you just talked about, and now they're running this offense that's 100 snaps a game. I mean, anything can happen. The thing that Coach Roboto does a great job of is everything he does schematically, offense, defense, special teams, is all unorthodox, and it really gives their team a chance to win despite, they're in a tough location, a little bit different than San Antonio to recruit to. But he's always done a great job, and that staff's always done a great job of giving them a chance to win.
Well, we'll break down ACU versus Eastern New Mexico a little bit later on in the show, but when we come back after this first break, Brandon will look back at that big 54-17 victory over Incarnate Word last Saturday night. You'll get Coach Thompson's analysis as well. This is the Chris Thomsen Show on K-Texas. ACU last Saturday night in San Antonio, a big 54-17 victory over Incarnate Word in the first meeting between those two teams. With a look back at the highlights, here's Brandon.
The undefeated and number 4 ACU Wildcats made their first ever trip to Incarnate Word this past weekend in San Antonio, and the Wildcats were all about the big play. Edmund Gates down the sideline, blows by the defender for the 47-yard catch. He's ruled out at the 1-yard line, but his cousin Daryl Richardson would take it in from there. Wildcats grabbed the early lead 7-0. Next ACU possession, Mitchell finds Edmund Gates on the slant route, and no doubt about this one, 33 yards for the score, the first of 2 touchdowns on the night for Edmund Gates. After yet another stifling defensive stand, the Wildcats pushed the ball into the Incarnate 10-yard line, but ACU came up short, unable to convert for the touchdown. That would lead to a Morgan Lineberry field goal, ACU up 17-0. But that score would quickly change on this play. Safety L.B. Suggs blasts the Cardinals' Andrew Mosio and jars the ball from his hands and the helmet from his head, and Eric Edwards scoops it up and rumbles in for the score. Wildcats go up big 24-0. UIW wasn't giving it up yet, though. Mitchell Gale on the next Wildcat drive, looking for Taylor Gabriel. Gabriel takes his eye off the ball and pops it up in the air. It's pulled down by Dakota Moyer. The interception was the first of the season for Gale and ends a streak of 293 straight attempts without a pick. The Cardinals were eager to get on the board, and Eric Massoni finds Mosio on the seam route to set Incarnate Word up inside the ACU 10. Just 2 plays later is all it would take for Massoni to find Donald Giles for the 6-yard score and pull the Cardinals within 17. Daryl Richardson on the next ACU drive makes a great run to set the Wildcats up inside the Incarnate Word 20, but Morgan Lineberry cannot hit the field goal attempt from 28 yards, And so the score remains 24-7. But the Wildcats would make up for it when Mitchell Gale finds Sharkandrick West on the screen pass, and West does the rest. 67 yards to the house, the longest play from scrimmage for West, the true freshman. The touchdown put the game out of reach as ACU goes up 31-7, but the Wildcats would keep at it. This time, Gale finds Raymond Radway down the middle of the field. Great job by Radway to go up and get it over the defender, and he would finish it off a few plays later. Mitchell Gale finished the game with 379 yards passing and a career-high tying 5 touchdowns. The Wildcats thumped Incarnate Word 54-17.
Coach, 54-17 the final. I know that you respected and do respect what Coach Santiago has done down there at Incarnate Word. You talked about that last week on the show. It, to me, appeared that you respected their team and your players respected them because you came out with as stout a defensive effort as I've seen in the first half.
Well, he jokingly in pregame said, hey, you take it easy on us tonight. And I said, hey, you ruined that when you took Midwestern to overtime. I mean, he got everybody's attention when they did that. And I think our guys really looked at that and said, we got to get ourselves ready to play. And we knew we did, and they came out and did a good job.
One of the biggest hits we've seen all season, and one of the best hits maybe since you got here in 2005 was L.B. Suggs on the near sideline right in front of your bench on a third down pass to Andrew Mosio, their tight end, with what appeared to be a perfectly clean legal hit that separated Mosio's helmet from his head and the ball from his arms. Eric Edwards picked up the loose ball and rumbled 25 yards into the end zone. You mentioned what a workhorse Suggs was 2 weeks ago in that victory over Midwestern State. He seems to have a nose for the ball. Give me an L.B. Suggs report card here as he's made this transition from linebacker to safety.
Well, the hit, Coach Johns keeps a top hits reel since he's been here, and it's up to like 15 now. And they're really thinking that LB's hit is fixing to go to the front of the line to number 1, so that tells you what kind of shot that was. But LB's just done a great job. He's a guy that was a 3-3 stack linebacker at Cedar Hill. He played the middle linebacker on a state championship team and always had a nose for the ball. And he was a little guy. Us and Pitt State were the only 2 schools that offered him. And, didn't know where he was going to play, didn't know if he could convert to defensive back. But as he's been here over the couple of years he's been here, you just keep seeing these movements that are safety. I even think he could play corner. I think he's that good. But
he has the speed for that?
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be a great speed corner. I mean, his speed would be questionable at corner, but I think he's got the toughness and the skills to do it and the savvy. He's just a football player. And I think that's what's allowed him to be successful. He really does have a nose for the ball. He has a good understanding of just football in general. He kind of made his mark on special teams last year, and I got to deal with him a lot on special teams, and he knows exactly where to fit, and he's very coachable, and he's a very intelligent guy.
Yeah, and just a word about the speed. That's not all there is to playing corner.
Exactly.
Either, right?
I mean, there's the NFL will tell you that there's a lot of guys in the NFL playing corner that are 4.55, high 4.5 type people, but they just have instincts, and those instincts are what makes up the difference, for the lack of speed. And he's got those instincts that allow him to get in position to make plays that other people don't make.
A great hit by L.B. Suggs. It was on the ACU Today blog, in fact, that hit on Andrew Mosio last week, and Suggs was part of a huge defensive effort in that 54-17 victory. Let's talk about the other side of the ball. Mitchell Gale, 379 yards, a career-high tying 5 touchdown passes. Alas, his streak of 293 consecutive passes without an interception ended in a most unlikely way with a throw to Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah, Taylor, I think, just kind of took his eyes off of it a little bit, tried to run too early, and the ball bounced up and got tipped up in the air, and they caught it. But there's been a couple this year that got tipped that Taylor actually caught. So I told Mitchell that all evens out in the long run. But, we'd like to have seen him go through the whole season without a pick, but that's unlikely. But again, that one really wasn't on him. But really, another good performance by Mitchell.
Yeah, he's 22-1 now, touchdown to interception ratio. He's now, and this is weird, we talked about this the other day, he was 8th, I believe, going into the week in the nation in passing efficiency, and it's a convoluted, complex series of numbers. Even with the pick, he goes up from 8th to 4th in the nation. And again, forget the numbers specifically what they mean. That that standing in the nation in terms of passing efficiency means you're making good decisions, completing a whole bunch of passes and a whole lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's always Coach Collum's goal for those quarterbacks is just to be efficient, just deliver the ball and don't try to do too much, and I think that's what he's doing. Billy Malone in 08 was #1 in the country at that, and I think Ken does a great job of getting those guys prepared.
One of the 5 touchdown passes went to your true freshman, Shakandrick West, on a screen pass. He went straight up the middle after catching it, 67 yards. He has emerged. We talked about him. He really didn't get to the campus even until the week before school started. How has he emerged, and how much confidence do you now have in him 7 games into the year?
Well, a lot of confidence. I mean, I stuck him back there on kickoff return last week. You know, Harkless's role has increased on offense, so we kind of took him off kickoff return and put Shakandrick back there. And I say we've got the trust in him because you trust him to protect the ball. Kickoff return's a high-impact play. And so we try, we're developing more and more trust. He actually didn't get here till the week school started, so he's still learning. There's a few things that he's still learning, especially in the protection part of it. So he still has to be a little bit limited in that way. But his role should increase each week. He's an explosive guy.
Another big game for Edmund Gates. 3 catches, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. To me, Gates' most impressive feat was the fact that he caught Shakandrick West on that 67-yard screen pass touchdown. He was the only one on the field for either team who could catch up to West.
Yeah, he likes to do that to show his speed. He used to do that with Bernard. Bernard would, his cousin would break, and he always wanted to show he was faster, so he would just run by him on a long touchdown. And that's kind of his deal on that.
Yeah, well, great game, 54-17. We'll have more on the Chris Thomsen Show with Brandon in just a sec.
Welcome back to the Chris Thomsen Show. On the ACU football team, one of the most important things to players and coaches alike is the player's spiritual development. Kevin Washington goes inside the football team's chapel this week on Washington's Post.
We're about to walk into Athletes Chapel, which we do on Thursday as a team. We have our own team chapel just to get some accountability. And actually, we're going to have a special guest speaker, which is going to be Rashad Johnson, who's a guy on our team. So it should be pretty interesting. But chapel is just another way for our team to get together and try to get our unity and make sure that we're together on the field and off.
The fear of greatness is a disease that weakens everything to average. Until you no longer fear greatness, you will never be great. Scott Williams. I believe this team is one step away from reaching its full potential, which is greatness. But I believe that step we must overcome is fear. And fear is the last step, I believe, for this team before we overcome whatever we overcome. But it's fear. And first of all, you got to look at what is fear. The actual definition for fear is being afraid of whatever, or feeling anxious or apprehensive about a possible outcome or situation or event. But there's a difference.
You just saw Rashad Johnson, who's a redshirt freshman outside linebacker, talk to us a little bit at our own chapel. He talked a lot about accountability and how we have to be accountable to each other to make sure that we're going to get to where we're trying to go. Coach T is big on this. One of the things that he does, which we actually do a lot at chapel, is accountability partners. That means each person on the team finds someone else to talk to for that week, and we have 4 goals: an academic, a weight room, a practice, and a personal goal. We have to tell that person our goal, and that person keeps them accountable throughout the week. And that's one way that we define our program, is to make sure that we're holding each other accountable to things that we want to get done during the year in all aspects of our life. That's one of the things that makes our program the kind of program it is. So thanks again, Rashad, for that, and thanks, Coach T, for all the accountability. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, Kevin. And now let's go on up to the JMC Network newsroom for a look at what's going on around the rest of the ACU sports world.
Welcome to the JMC Network Sportscast. I'm your host, Austin Gwynn.
And I'm Kristen Goodspeed with another exciting weekly look inside ACU sports, on and off the field. This past weekend, the ACU Wildcat tennis team had 4 players advance to the ITA Small College National Championship Tournament in Mobile, Alabama. For the women, Julia Monja won the 3rd place match in the singles bracket, while on the men's side, Hans Hawk took the 5th place match. Both players defeated their opponents in straight sets, with Monja winning 6-2, 7-5 over Judah Bornfeld of California. Hawk finished with a 6-1, 6-2 victory over Andy Blair of Drury. 3rd place finishes went to both the men and women's doubles teams in the tournament. Wildcat tennis continues this next weekend at the Tyler College Invitational in Tyler, Texas.
The soccer team racked up 2 more wins last weekend against Central Oklahoma and Southwestern Oklahoma State. The wins keep them in 2nd place in the Lone Star Conference behind Midwestern State. Against UCO, the Cats got up early thanks to 2 quick goals by Andrea Carpenter. Goalie Elliott London picked up another shutout victory during the 3-0 ACU win. Against Southwestern Oklahoma, the Cats did even more offensive damage en route to a 4-0 victory. Sophomore Julie Coppage scored twice and Carpenter added another as the Cats had their best weekend of the year, outscoring their opponent 7-0. The Cats will go on the road to face Angelo State and Incarnate Word this weekend.
Moving to volleyball, the Wildcats are 20th in the national ranking this week. ACU is the only Lone Star Conference team in the national poll with a 19-3 season with an 8-0 start in the LSC. The Cats moved up to the 20th spot with a 3-set win over Cameron at Aggie Gym in Lawton, Oklahoma last Saturday. Shauna Hines led the Wildcats with 14 kills and 5 blocks. The win pushes the Wildcats to 1 win away from their 3rd consecutive season with 20 wins. ACU will be back in action this Thursday against East Central. For the JMC Network, I'm Kristen Goodspeed.
And I'm Austin Gwynn. May the sports be with you.
Jared Mosley is the man that keeps the ACU athletic department running both literally and figuratively. Ryan Cantrell takes a look at the job of the Wildcats athletic director in this week's On the Grid.
I first came to ACU as a student athlete in 1995 and was a part of the men's basketball program here at ACU, and always knew going into college that I would want to eventually be a coach. You know, being able to compete at the intercollegiate level. Once I got here to ACU, realized I really wanted to be around college athletics. One of the things, as far as my experience after becoming an assistant AD here, my initial roles, I oversaw kind of internal operations, so I worked a lot with budgets and student athlete development and facility oversight and game day management. Primarily, I see my role in dealing with personnel and making sure that we bring in coaches and help train and develop our coaching staff and provide them with the resources they need to be successful. And then the obvious piece is developing relationships that then lead to opportunities for us to grow revenue streams to fund what we need to do here at ACU. It's pretty amazing to think about the history and the success we've had here at ACU in our sports, and to be able to come into a fall at this point with the possibility to say this could be the best fall ever that ACU's ever experienced in the athletic arena is pretty remarkable. I'm very excited about what this year holds for ACU. I'm proud of the efforts of our coaches and student athletes, and look forward to bringing home hopefully some hardware that all of our student body and faculty and staff can be excited about.
When we come back on the Chris Thomsen Show, we will have a look at the standings from around the rest of the LSC and preview a trip to Blackwater Draw for a showdown with the Run and Gun Greyhounds. Stay with us.
Back on the Chris Thomsen Show, take a look at the standings in the Lone Star Conference through Week 7, and you'll see that there is ACU, 7-0 overall, 6-0, leading the conference by 1 game in the loss column over a handful of teams, leading the Lone Star Conference South Division as well at 4-0, 1 game up in the loss column in the South Division on Kingsville, West Texas A&M, and Midwestern State. Coach West Texas A&M 24-6. They led Kingsville last Saturday night in South Texas, and the Javelinas stormed back to win a huge game, 28-24.
Well, we saw that when we were down there. Kings was a really good second-half team, and I think, 31-10 at one point, and we almost blew that lead. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with what a great team they are, and they showed that against WT. That's a very improbable comeback. Doesn't happen a lot to West Texas.
Well, and when you consider the fact that A&M Kingsville played not only without Fred Winborn, whom they lost after the 3rd week of the season, but also DeLaShawn Dean, we talked about that last week, the big wide receiver transfer from Arizona. Impressive for the Javelinas. And another huge game in the Lone Star Conference tonight, Coach, Midwestern State on the road in Canyon against West Texas A&M.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting. I mean, that's one you'd like to be able to swing over from Portales and go watch, you know. But I really can't give a prediction on that one. Those two teams, I hadn't seen West Texas. I've seen 1 quarter against Grand Valley, you know, and they look very impressive to me. But other than that, we haven't seen them on film. And of course, we played Midwestern, but I know that's going to be a great game.
All right, let's talk about today's game. In fact, you kick off here in just about, 3.5 hours. ACU against Eastern New Mexico, which comes in at 3-4 in the season. They've had 2 really debilitating, just kick in the gut kind of losses to Southwestern Oklahoma State and also last week to East Central. But the Greyhounds lately are aptly named, aren't they? They like to go fast. How hard is it to prepare for them the week of practice?
It's real difficult because your scout team, I mean, they can't simulate that. You try to simulate that. We're running as many plays as we can at our defense as fast as we can, but obviously there's not the coordination between our scout team that there is, with Eastern New Mexico's offense. But it's really one of those deals you have to kind of adjust as the first quarter moves along, and you hope that they don't, run you off the field early, because they're going to complete passes. It's just one of those things that they get a lot of people out in the route and they get people open. They're going to have some completions, and as the first quarter moves along, we're going to have to adjust to that tempo quickly.
But just to clarify something, this is not your typical no huddle or hurry up. This is hurry up like on 78 record speed, because as soon as the ball is spotted, they're snapping it, aren't they?
Yeah, as soon as the official spots it and starts the clock, within a couple of seconds they've snapped the football. And it looks like their goal is to get 100 snaps, which, typical football game, you play about 70 snaps, maybe 80. And it takes its toll on your defense. You obviously have to have a lot of people rolling in and staying fresh.
Their highest snap total offensively this year was, I believe, in fact, 108 in the fifth game of the year.
That's crazy. And they've been up and down. One week they scored 10 against, I think, Southwest Oklahoma, and the next week it's like 50 against UCO. And I don't know what's causing that for them. Turnovers, they've struggled a little bit with turnovers, but if they get hot, they're going to present problems. I hope they don't get hot tonight.
Coach, their crazy offense gets a lot of attention, but one thing that kind of goes overlooked with them is the fact that they lead the conference in pass defense efficiency. They have a couple of great defensive backs. Tillman Stevens with 6 interceptions, and Rodney Mitchell has 10 passes defended. He's top 10 or 7 passes defended. He's top 10 in the LSC. What does your offense have to do tonight or this afternoon to be able to get past that defense?
Well, Coach Robato's an old defensive coach. When we were, assistants, he was always a defensive coordinator and has always done an excellent job and brings some different looks that you don't see each week. But the main thing is, I think more than anything this week, we got to be balanced. We got to be able to run the football a little bit more than we have, just because to try to take some time off the clock, keep their offense off the field a little bit. But we've also got to be able to throw it. And we know those guys are good over there, and we've been able to throw it effectively on just about everybody we've played. And we got to, I think more than anything this week, we got to be balanced, which we haven't had a lot of balance in the last couple of weeks just because we've thrown it more. But that's going to be the key this week.
Well, I don't think your team needs to look any farther than last year's game against Eastern New Mexico to know how dangerous this team can be. This is a fourth quarter lead that they had against you, and really a couple of the key players in that game are not with you anymore. Justin Johnson had a 100-yard kickoff return at a time when your team trailed by double digits, and then Reggie Brown had a monster fourth quarter to lead that big comeback.
Yeah, he did, and that was the thing that finally got going, was the run game, and that's I still think that's the approach you have to take against these guys. And the problem with that is they play an 8-man front and they stack the line of scrimmage and they don't want to let you run it, so they're going to force you to throw the ball some, and they got those great DBs to counter that. So it's a little scary going in without those guys from last year. They were kind of the key to bringing us back, and we're going to have to find a way to win this week.
All right, trying to go 8-0. Play well tonight. A reminder that you can hear the broadcast at 2:30, the pregame show 2:30 local time. It's mountain time there in Portales, New Mexico, so it's a 2 o'clock kickoff mountain time, but 3 o'clock Central Time. The pregame show on Mix 92.5 FM locally in Abilene at 2:30. ASU Athletic Director Jared Mosley will be on the call with me doing that broadcast, and we will see you next week right here on the Chris Thomsen Show. For the coach and for Brandon Tripp, I'm Grant Boone.